Good morning. So let's go ahead and get going on this. So within engineering, we have 15 people in operations, we have 13 people in development, and we have 2 open slots. So if you know any developer, Java developer, who's interested in working at ARIN, please have them contact Andy. You want to raise your hand, Andy? And he's a great manager from what I hear. So anyone who's interested in working at ARIN, more than welcome to have you sign up. We're also looking for a user interface and user experience designer person as well as going along with this sort of website redevelopment effort. Use software integration, which is also does a lot of our testing. We have 11 people in that department. We have 1.5 people in project management, and of course me as the CTO. So let's go on and talk about the various accomplishments since ARIN 38. We've fixed many kinks in our new office. Had that new car smell when you first moved in. But you know what it's like when you go through the dealership because the engine starts knocking? It's always kind of a sort of a depressing feeling having to take it to the dealership. We've had to take our computer room to the dealership a number of times. So sadly, this is an ongoing issue. We're hoping for a recall. We'll see how that works out. We've worked on modernizing our voting contacts. We've done lots and lots of UI work. Nate sort of described that in his software development status report yesterday. And we're working on a lot of technical debt, which I'm going to go into here shortly. We've gone agile with our operations staff. This is something that we tried various forms of over the past, and it's mainly as a management technique to get more exposure for the rest of the company, what not only development and is doing, but also the operations group. So we're doing that as well. We've had another third-party audit, security audit done, and from our initial findings, it seems that we're doing quite well. When we moved into our new building, we did a network redesign. And it seems like that worked out pretty well, and the people who came to do the audit weren't able to get to as many places as they were before. We've been working on lots of technical debt, as I mentioned before, and we have 2 things to bring to your attention that way. For example, one of the things that ARIN Operations has is we have 3 monitoring systems. So it depends what year this particular system was put in place and what monitoring system it was using. And we just hadn't had time to actually sort of convert all these things. So we're folding them into one, which is Sensu, and we're working on that right now, and it's making some fairly good progress. We also have 3 configuration management systems, and again, depending on the vintage in which the system was built, was what configuration management system was put into place. We're also folding that down into one. So as you can see, there's lots and lots of work to do, a lot of stuff you guys don't see, but if any of the stuff breaks, obviously you see it then. Last time we talked about DDoS attacks, filling our pipes, and we have a DDoS mitigation vendor put in place, and it worked out quite well. And all that subsided, except then we ran into the next challenge, and that's distributed abuse of our directory services. So we've had multiple types of abuse. Some of it may not even be abuse. One is that someone came in and started querying our WHOIS clusters at very high rates, 600 queries per second, and it turned out to be a legitimate use. Our lawyers talked to their lawyers. We figured out a way for them to actually get the information they wanted in a bulk format, and they've gone away. And you'll see that on the WHOIS slides here in a little bit. But then we also started running into problems where people were hitting us a lot from EC2, Amazon EC2, and we started seeing hundreds of thousands of queries per second coming against our WHOIS cluster. And we found out that this guy here, Mark's tech blog, actually wrote a how to crawl the entire distributed database of all the regional registries and how to do it with AWS cluster. And what they were doing is getting around the rate limiting that's been traditionally put in place, where you can only do so many queries per second per IP address, because you could just use a Amazon web cluster and hit it from hundreds and hundreds of various servers, thousands. So this is our next upcoming challenge. Now, what's interesting about this is I'm on part of ICANN's Security and Stability Committee, and they've been looking at this at a different side. They've been looking at the side from, hey, these registrars, these domain registrars are really restricting access, and we need to get access so people can actually transfer their registrars from one registrar to another. And to do that, what you need to do is you need the receiving registrar needs to find out what the registration information is for that domain, so they do a whois lookup. Some of these registrars have extremely draconian limits. So you can only have one IP, like one is having only one request per day from an AS. And if you have any more from that AS, you are blocked for a period of time, maybe weeks. So that makes it really hard if you have transfers going on from registrar to registrar. And so I saw this as kind of interesting, is that we're looking at this from two different sides. One is people are really have nailed down directory services which were meant to be used for the community good, and they've restricted for various reasons. And we're saying, hey, look, we have so much information here, and lots of people are pulling down. So what is reasonable here? Do we allow bulk access for all people? If that's true, should there be AUP? And if not, what sort of rate limits should we put into place? Or did we just build out more machines? Right now, frankly, ARIN doesn't have a rate limit. So you can hit us as much as you want, but if you start hurting our systems, we get alerted and we're going to filter you out. So, and the next part is, how do you guard against scraping? You can hit this at a very low level, and you can get the entire contents of our directory services on your own machine. And we won't see it if you stay low enough. Do we want to guard against that? That's another question. And we've heard in the past, people want to do one of two things. I don't know what the answer is. What the community wants to do here is certainly what we would actually want to put into place. So these things are sort of important for us to figure out what we're going to do, because the internet is changing from the way it was before. The other thing is other regional registries are dependent on us on many different things. Since ARIN has been sort of the legacy provider in many different ways, has all these legacy addresses. A lot of people's whois clients and so on, bootstrap off of our services. So whois defaults to ARIN. We actually tell which registry they go to, and then they go to that registry and ask for that information. As a result, our query rates are much higher than the other regional registries. So we talk about denial of service attacks and everything else within the operational realms within our regional registries, and we talk about these rates, and what other people are seeing as DOS attacks, we're seeing as normal query behavior. So it's an interesting sort of scenario that's occurring. We also have DNS coordination. And who saw the stuff that hit Nanog a couple of weeks ago about various inadders being missing? That was within ARIN/8's. A few of you. All right, a couple of you. Actually, APNIC was hit by this as well. So there's occasional misfires that happen with how we handle DNS. We call them snippets, where we can't really follow the DNS delegation hierarchy to send out to provide DNS delegation information. So the registries years and years ago figured out a way to make DNS work, given that we're doing all these inter-RIR transfers. And in doing so, we created a fairly good system making it happen until about 3 weeks ago. There hasn't been a major misfire. There was a fairly significant misfire at RIPE. But there's also other mistakes that are made that we just catch. And the main thing that we catch in this is making sure that another regional registry can't stomp on your data. And we get reported on that, and then we go back to them and say, hey, what are you guys doing? You're trying to overclaim on stuff that's not yours. This is actually in ARIN's realm, not your realm. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on under the covers that we're sort of exposing here. So I'm going to go through some of the numbers, and then I'm going to end on what's happening with whois. So just a little bit of anticipation, right? Okay, so here you can see that we have 123, almost 124,000 accounts activated. And it's fairly consistent over the years, which I find fairly amazing. And here is another interesting stat, is that we have out of that 124,000 users, that almost 20,000 of them are power users. So you can see that they've logged in over greater than 16 times within ARIN Online, which is great. This is awesome. It means the system's working. And here's another part that always makes me really happy, is the RESTful service is the system that is to someday, hopefully, replace templates. And you can see here that that the RESTful interfaces is certainly overtaking templates, and now it's a order. It's about 3 times as great, or actually a little bit over 2 times as great as what happens with templates. So this is great. This is what people use for reassignments. I'm really happy to see that people are moving on to the new systems using RESTful technology. DNSSEC, what can you say? Less than 1% secured. I think this is kind of universal for DNSSEC. We've had a debate inside, how useful is DNSSEC? Well, we at ARIN validate DNS responses that are DNSSEC signed. And if they're not, if they fail, we actually notice that. So this stuff is actually deployed, is useful in some way, but less than 1% is our current usage rate. RPGI usage is it continually goes up just by little bit, and still there's some work to be done here as well. Here we go. Who has queries per second? You notice that there's a rise. We had a just tremendous rise in 2010 where we're seeing almost 3,700 queries per second. Since then, everything's kind of settled down at various things, but then it started to rise. And then it fell precipitously because we actually started looking at the logs and trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? Who's doing this? And let's start trying to talk to some of these people and trying to figure out how we can better serve them other than them hitting us at 600 queries per second. So actually, Owen actually started seeing this and notified me. And we made some tweaks to make some of the issues that he had seen go away, but it made us look at this stuff in a little bit closer detail than we had before. Directory services over v6, there's a wide skew here, and it's mainly because in that one bump that we had where it was over 23% was a guy scraping us over v6. And so we shut him off and everything went down, and we're around 3 to 4% right now. RDAP. RDAP continues to churn along. Again, there's a little scraping activity that occurred. The numbers are pretty large. It's a summary total because it's a fairly new technology. But this is something that the IETF is for, we're for, and many people within the domain industry are for as a replacement to Whois. IRR maintainers keeps on going up. Routes and Route 6 stuff keeps on going up in the IRR. INetNum and INet6Num also continues to go up. And I find that fairly impressive because it's this is a legacy system. Here's our breakout per organization. You can see that 5 organizations are power users in this space, and a great majority have less than 10 objects within the IRR. So there's a large number. There's 5 organizations that are using this big time, mainly as backup routes, and then there's a bunch of little guys in there as well. So what are we working on through Q3 when we meet again? So we're working on fully redundancying, new word, our services. We're not quite there yet. We have a couple of single points of failure that we need to work on. We have integration of OAuth within RDAP, which is going to allow us to, once you're authenticated, you could get as many results as you want, which is the ACSP out there. And it's also going to help us with the timeout issue, since we can use OAuth to no longer have sessions based tracked by the server itself. It's actually actually offload to the client. And then also with our usability, we're looking at, right now we've been focusing on the dynamic portion of the website, making it more accessible. And hopefully you guys have noticed, anyone get lost on the dynamic portion, you know, where you log into ARIN Online? Has anyone been lost in there lately? No? Good, good. All right. Technical backlog. Java 6 has been out of commission, or well, out of support since 2013. Sadly, we're still running Java 6. So this is something that we want to upgrade into Java 8. We'd like to get that done this year. As I mentioned before, we want to overhaul our monitoring systems, transitioning to Sensu, where one is almost put to bed. We're almost got one done. Xenos is almost gone. We also want to improve our logging so we're able to detect things in a more responsive way instead of dealing with reactions. And we're moving to Ansible for our build systems. We were using Puppet, but we found that Puppet was just way too complex for what we needed, and it involved way too much engineering. So we've sort of took a step back, looked at it, and said Ansible seems to be a better CM tool for us as well. So we are doing coordination work with the other regional registries. One of the things that's going on is there was talk before by Jeff yesterday about transfer logs. And this is something that's a weakness in what's called extended stats, which gives you what's been assigned, what's been allocated, and what's in the inventory under each RIR. And one of the things that's not as clear is when transfers are taking place, and especially those are in flight. And so this allows you the ability to actually see this. So this is a good addition to do it, and you're more than welcome to take a look at this file if you want. Jeff sees it every day, lets me know every day.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeff. The other thing is that dealing with the RPGI. The regional registries we currently have 3 different ways of doing trust anchors between the 5 RIRs. And so we're going to become aligned in a better way here. And we hope to have this done by 3rd quarter this year so that we have a more uniform way for the community to actually see how things are done with RPGI. This helps make before break, so when you have a transfer and you're using RPGI doesn't break. And so it has some good features as part of it. This has gone into the ITF. I would like to say it was non-controversial. It is controversial, so it's something that we're working through, and we'll see whether or not the ITF accepts it. If not, it goes someplace live so people can see operationally how RPGI works. So with that, I'm done. Any comments?
Questions for Mark?
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, you're welcome.